Hello, everybody. This is Debbie from Teacher Success Coach with another educator from around the world. We've been having a lot of challenges trying to get all onto the platform today. I'm not too sure what's happening. It's just technology. These are some of the things we experienced while we were in the classroom. And these are what we have experienced right now today. It's just really challenging. Thank you guys for listening on. Anyway, today we have another female educator, as I said, who is going to share her journey with us in terms of before COVID, during COVID, and after COVID. What has it been like for her in her education establishment during those periods? Thank you, Stacey, for coming on. I'm really grateful for you actually coming on to share your journey with us, because as we know, during those periods, it was a very, very challenging journey for all of us, plus educators even double burden. So please introduce yourself, tell us where you come from, and tell us about your journey.
Hi, everybody. I am Stacey. I am an educator from Cape Town, South Africa. I do teach from the ages of 6 to 9 years old. I am a primary school teacher, and I've been teaching for about 15 years now.
Wow. Okay, so which means that, you know, you've actually know the education system well in terms of, you know, the experience that you brought in. However, during COVID, that experience, for me, that experience didn't matter anymore because we needed to navigate new experience to do the new challenge we now had. So for you, and in South Africa, what was it like, you know, in terms of during COVID? What actually happened for you guys?
It was new, absolute new territory for us. It was something we haven't experienced before. I think for educators, for myself, it was a difficult period where I had to learn to adjust for firstly to technology, to teaching over technology and not actual in-person teaching, and then having to navigate children to learn that way from me. So it was a trying time, but new territory that we found ourselves navigating through and eventually mastering it.
Right. For all of us, it was a sudden thing. You're in the classroom one day, and next day you're told that, okay, you're working from home. And for all of us, it was a temporary thing here.
Yes.
So for you, what was it like in terms of trying to navigate on this new platform? So did you guys teach during COVID? You know, were there any teaching going on at the time?
We did not do in-person teaching, no. We did online teaching. We did the hybrid teaching where we had to teach the learners we had to teach via WhatsApp because everybody didn't have access to Zoom. So we had to teach over WhatsApp. We had to teach over, we had to even send messages because everybody they do not have access to the internet. They do not have access to Zoom. They do not have access to laptops and things. So we had to make do with what we had and we had to teach that way.
Right. So how did you teach over WhatsApp? What did you teach over WhatsApp?
We had to do our lessons over WhatsApp. So either we pre-recorded lessons and then we taught them that way. We sent it via videos, or we did video calls, video conferencing. But with that, we could only do about 4 to 6 children at a time. So then we would pre-record lessons, we would pre-record videos, and then send it to the whole group as a class. And that was the only way we could do it.
So how did you find those way of teaching in terms of teaching in Zoom? And you know, although you did face-to-face on Zoom, FaceTime, how many children were you able to do in terms of maximum?
I could only do about, I think, 6 children at a time. So that's why I'm saying everybody didn't always have access to the internet. They didn't always have a data connection. So that's why I had to teach the amount that I could teach, and those that I couldn't do, I had to somehow see that they could get something on hard copies on paper so that they could also get some learning done.
Wow. So, which means that it was a way, I just think it, correct me if I'm wrong, it's just a way of just keeping the children occupied. It wasn't teaching as such, it was just occupying them for that period, right?
Sadly so.
Okay, so how long did you guys have to do that for?
It was when the lockdown started. So from about March until it was from March till about August 2020.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in terms of, what was the response of the parents?
I think the parents were also just, it was new territory for parents as well. And it was a difficult time for parents as well because they also didn't know how to help their children from home, because we couldn't reach all the parents for them to kind of workshop them, to kind of help them to help their kids at home. So they just were giving what we gave them. And some of them didn't know how to do that.
So thank you for that. So what happened when you guys came back so that was 2020. When did you guys go back into the classroom?
We went back into the classroom at, I think, mid-August, but it was not full classrooms. We did hybrid teaching, so it was half one day, half the next day, half. We did half and half.
Right. So which means that whatever you engage the children with, when you actually went back, you had to do all of that again, isn't it?
Twice, yes.
Right. So now that you guys are back, are you guys back in full flow now in the classroom as normal now?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
100% back.
Okay, thank you. So how did you find the children? The children that didn't get a lot of support during the COVID. What it is like now in the classroom for you guys?
Firstly, there's a big, I would say, like a big gap missing. I don't know how to more put it, but there's a gap missing of where the children lag for almost a year. So you can see their development is not where it should be, but it is slowly, I'm talking about development, behavioral, everything. It's not exactly where it should be, but it feels like they missed out on a time that was really important to them. So they missed out on that. So it feels like they're still catching up. Now in 2023, it still feels like they're catching up from 3 years ago.
So how are you guys, thank you, how are you guys meeting that shortfall?
I think we are, what we are doing, we are teaching ability groups. So we are teaching according to abilities. So we do group teaching. And we are trying to catch up the best way we can according to the learner's abilities. So we're going according to the way that they learn, despite the grade that they are in.
So thank you. So what did you guys do? Did you guys move them up a grade, or you just kept them there and just taught them? What did you guys do in terms of filling in the gaps that was missing?
With COVID here, they did move the grade up. So that's why I'm saying they because they came to school, I think it was only about a full 4 months for the year of 2020. They did go to the next grade, which made it very difficult for the learners because they had to go to a next grade without fully learning what the previous grade had to offer.
So thank you for that. So the other thing about it is, so even though they've moved up a grade, they're still missing that piece because you guys were not able to give it to them, right?
No, we weren't, because we couldn't catch up with them either. And I mean, children develop on their own pace. So we couldn't force them to do something that they missed out on. As much as we tried, we cannot give them, we couldn't catch up on what they missed out on. But we did try to build on what we could, where they found themselves.
That's interesting. Thank you. So in terms of the classroom and in terms of the online platform, right? Because you guys didn't have an online platform as such. You guys had more Zoom. Is there anything
Yeah.
that you've taken from, or anything that was learned from the WhatsApp platform that you guys were using to going back in the classroom? What have that period taught you?
Okay. The period of WhatsApp, it just taught us that we could, just in case the learners couldn't learn in school in person, or they couldn't learn over Zoom per se, we learned that we could be teaching to the best of our ability and to the best of the parents' ability for their learning as well. But I learned that that it could be used as a teaching platform, especially where we could do video calls like Zoom calls. WhatsApp taught us we can teach over WhatsApp. We can teach over any platform, technically.
Mm, mm, mm. Thank you. So now that you're back in the classroom, right? What are some of the challenges and some of the triumphs you're finding now that you're back in the classroom?
Okay. I find, which is also, I think, a negative of the technological learning time, is that learners don't love to read as much anymore. And reading is so fundamentally important. They don't love to read so much anymore. And that is the biggest challenge I currently have, is that learners don't love to read as much as they like to swipe.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. Thank you. It's interesting that, right? Because last week, Thursday, I think I was talking to my learners, and I keep on saying to them that they are the TikTok children,
Yes.
because their attention span is 2 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like the school, I mean, the lessons are an hour. And I don't believe that we should be teaching for an hour. However, I do believe that at least 20 minutes of teaching before you're ready for a break would be nice. But I cannot even get them to 20 minutes without they saying to me, oh, miss, we want a break. Or there's some form of disruption going on, because the
Yes.
attention span is so limited now that I find coming back after the lockdown that it is challenging to teach. And it's like trying to develop different teaching styles and teaching techniques in order to hold their attention. So I'm not too
Yes.
sure what you've identified that would help us in terms of maintain the attention. What have you found? Yes, you've said that, you realize they're not reading a lot as they used to. So what have you put in place to support, if anything, to support them to read a little bit more? What have you got?
Okay. So what I've done is I have
Or the
we
school?
have
It doesn't have to be you, it
we
could be the school, because that's putting the pressure on you. But what have technically the school have actually brought forward?
okay. What we are doing is we have the interactive whiteboard. So what works with the interactive whiteboards is when the learners interact with the actual board. So teaching them reading and phonics and all the sounds and things where they can involve themselves with the actual lesson. That is what we are doing to get them more involved with learning. And like you said, their attention span is short. So when they are interactive with the lesson, with the interactive whiteboard, they kind of uh, they involve themselves more in the lesson, in the learning. So they learn better when they are involved in the actual teaching.
Right. Okay, okay, okay. Thank you for that. It's interesting because I teach all the children, all the young people, because my
Mm,
group is next year, is like preparing them for university.
mm.
And I use the whiteboard, but not as much. I use a lot of group exercise, like getting them to come up to present on the whiteboard, etc., etc. And that's interesting because you say getting them to interact. So how are you
Yes.
getting them to interact? What are they doing on the whiteboard?
Okay, so we have an e-beam. It's called an e-beam. So with an e-beam, we have a stylus pen. So it's an interactive pen. So the learners use this pen to, uh, they can kind of bring words together. They can use sounds. So what I do is I have an array of sounds on top. They can bring the sounds down and they can form their own words with the sounds. So that will be part of the lesson. So they will build their own words, but they will bring the sounds down to build the words. So they love doing that.
Okay, okay, that's beautiful. I could see why you know, that would actually grab their attention.
Yes.
Because it means that they're active and you also have a little bit of competition going on in that, which is,
Yes.
you know, quite nice.
Yes.
So were you using that before COVID?
No, 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 I was not. No, I was
So,
not.
so that was a product from COVID, right?
Yes, yes. I had to, like I said, we had to learn before the children could sit and they could, um, we could do a lesson and I was standing in front and they were sitting in their seats and they'd listen. But afterwards, like you just mentioned earlier, the attention span went that small. So that's why we had to figure out a way after COVID to keep them engaged in the classroom.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So what were your challenges in terms of, you know, where you are right now? So what are your challenges right now in terms of, you know, one of them we know is the attention span. What other challenges are you experiencing, you know, post-COVID in the classroom?
I think in the classroom it's still behavior. When I say behavior, the learners aren't as well disciplined as they were before. So I think discipline has become quite a problem afterwards, post-COVID, because the learners now, with the attention span, the behavior also, I think it goes hand in hand. So the discipline tends to go out the window with the learners. So that is one of the challenges at the moment, but we are working and trying to work on a strategy to get their discipline back to where it should be.
Thank you. So what are you guys doing to reduce that kind of challenging behavior you know experience in the classroom? So how are you dealing with it?
Okay, what I'm doing personally, I have a reward system. So the reward system is helping so much because I am working with 7-year-olds. So their reward system, because even up to a gold star, they appreciate it so much because and positive reinforcement all the time. That is what I'm doing and it seems to be working, but it doesn't also work with every learner.
Mm. Yeah, thank you. It's identifying your learners so therefore you know what worked for them and what doesn't. It's
Yeah,
interesting because you know I kept saying one of the things I've identified, as you said, you pointed out earlier on, that their behavior is not where it should be, plus the developmental stage is not where it should be. And
yes,
people do not realize that these children, they let's say if they're 16, they're age 16, but the development age is 14 because they haven't
absolutely.
got through that developmental process that they should have done had they not been in the lockdown. So something I said to my colleague on Thursday and Friday, there is no point in us actually shouting and making noise. It's not going to work. We just have to meet them where they
Yeah,
are. And right now, you know,
absolutely.
exactly. It's not, right now I'm teaching 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds, but they're not 16-year-olds. They're 16-year-olds in age, not in development or
Yes,
mental stage. I just have to step back a bit and say, okay, when I see those behavior, I just have to remind myself, okay, yes, that behavior, observe how it is looking. Yes, that is like a 14-year-old behavior, isn't it? They constantly giggling, they
yeah,
constantly disrupting, you know, because I had a student, she's 16, almost 17. She held onto the table. She was in the middle of two tables and she was just swinging on the table. And I just stood there and I just looked at her and I said, Miss, what are you? I said, I'm saying nothing. I'm just observing what's going on here. And then I said to the whole class, I said, do you think this is an appropriate behavior? I said, where would you, this kind of behavior, what group of children do you see doing those things, swinging on the table? You're almost 18. You know, so I do find is meeting them where they are, and then
Yes.
moving forward with them.
Yes.
Because something you said, the behavior is a big thing. And
Yes.
there's sometimes you don't know how to, because the 16 and 17-year-old I'm teaching, sometimes I don't know how to deal with the behavior because
Yes.
there's no point in me giving them detention. Personally, I don't think detention works. There's
Mm-hmm.
no need putting them on reports. Personally, I don't think report works. I've got a number of them who've been put on report by other teachers, and I'm looking at them, I'm saying to them, do you think you should be on report? No, miss. I say, okay, so what are we going to do about this? Miss, because I was talking excessively, I say, I want you to start being conscious. And I think the more we try to um, engage the student and remind them to be conscious, I feel that would work far better than putting them on report or detention. I don't know what your thoughts are
Yes.
on that.
No, I agree with you 100% with that, because I think at home they are so used to, I think with the behavior at home, they also just used to being reprimanded. So at school, and as hard as it is for us as teachers, we also have to show them some love with discipline. So like you were saying, when they keep being reported, when they keep getting detention, it kind of attaches a label to them. And I
Mm,
don't believe in labels so much, because I
mhm,
believe that every learner is capable of changing. It's just
mm,
we need to, like you said, meet them where they are. And we need to
mm,
figure out how to meet them where they are and get them to the best versions of themselves.
mhm, mhm. That is so very true. Thank you for that. So, what are some of the joys of going back into the classroom? We've identified the challenges, which is the behavior issue, the attention span. What are some of the joys of going back to the classroom to celebrate? What some of the joys are?
I think the biggest joy for me was actually being able to go back and see my learners. That was the biggest joy for me, is being able to physically teach them in a classroom and see them in front of me in person was the biggest joy. And then having them um, come to hug me, because I couldn't hug my children in 2 years. And then when they could hug me again, it was such a joy. And being able to teach them sitting in front of me, it's a blessing.
Mm, mm. That's interesting because I teach older children, so there's no hugging, no hugging, right? No hugging. But the beautiful thing was going back and it's like they say, "Oh, miss, what you like? You can't even put on the computer properly. What you like, miss?" I said, exactly. I said, I told you guys, I am not, I said, I've learned the platform when we were doing COVID. But after that, I said that sometimes I cannot do these two things together. This is your guys' forte, so you guys have to come and show me. So it's really nice that you're able, it's like the connection, the dialogue with the students and stuff like that. It's so natural and it's a real joy. I do share that. I do share that. I do
No,
share that.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think physically teaching your children, and being able to go to them and tell them, like with my age, I can tell them how to hold the pencil, but also indicate to them. But I could do it with physically holding their hands, showing them how to touch the pencil. That was something that I couldn't do. The pencil grip, the way that they could do things, physically. Those are joys that you don't miss until you can't do it anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. You know what is so interesting that these are such little things, but for us,
Yes,
it is such a big milestone for us.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And in terms of the mental health and your mental health, what do you think what were the challenges that you've had in terms of the young people, the children mental health when they came back to school and your mental health when you came back to school? Or during the COVID time, what was the issue with your mental health and their mental health?
With my own mental health, I think was having to adjust to something that we didn't know how to adjust to. We had to learn to, I think, to physically and mentally take ourselves and put ourselves somewhere with this thing that we didn't know how to deal with emotionally, because it's something we all have never done before. We've all never experienced it before. And everybody around us was getting sick and dying and things, and it was all this death surrounding it. And I think when we went back to school, we had to go, but we had to take that with us without having to deal with it, but then also going and then still having to teach and deal with other people who were dealing with the same thing. But then I think when we went back to school, we could all talk to each other about it, and we could relate because we all been going through the same thing. So that going back to school, it helped to have an outlet with each other at school, because I think we all experienced what the same thing. So it was nice to go back to school and experience with other educators what we went through, but also something we've never been through before. But we could talk about it with each other and we could understand what we went through. But because we've spoken to each other. And then with the learners, I think because they were so young, but I think at any age, any child, even up to the age of 16, with the whole COVID experience, like us adults, did not know what was happening. And children, most of the time, they don't know how to deal, how to express what they're feeling with their emotions and things. And a lot of that came out when they came back to school. And we had to deal with the aftermath of COVID, of the pandemic, with the learners, and we didn't know how to deal with them either. So I think with the learners, we just had to, and I mean, 3 years later, we are still struggling with the behavior, we're still struggling with what they went through, because they still don't know how to express a time that they kind of don't remember, but they also remember that they've been there.
Thank you. It is so very true, because one of the things I also saw as well, they don't know how to express it and they don't know where to express it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, going back to my group of learners that I'm teaching right now, there's sometimes, it's like I sent 2 of them out last week, and I don't usually send children out. And this is 6th form, but I had to send them out because they were disrupting the whole group. And it was just constantly giggling. Okay, what you're laughing, share it so that we could all laugh and get it over with and then continue. I'm not even too sure if they know what they were laughing. And it was just this negative, childish behavior. And when I saw them after, because I needed to see them after the lesson, I said, hold on, what's going on? Oh, this one was making me laugh. What was he doing making you laugh? Oh, miss, I can't even remember, he was making me laugh. So that's some of the things I've been getting from 16 and 17-year-old, where the behavior, they don't know where to express it. And I say to them, it's okay expressing those behavior, but don't do it in the classroom. You need to know when and where and how to express this behavior. So that's something I find that I'm having, because this is 16 and 17-year-old, and I find that I'm having to teach them as to appropriate behavior and how and where to display this behavior in an appropriate place and time. And I find it very tiring, the downside of that, because it's, as much as I feel that I need to give them the space to air it, it also means that I have to take time off to get them to deal with, then go back into the subject.
Yes. Yes.
You know.
Yes, that is a difficulty. I think we've all experienced, where we have to first uh, teach appropriate behaviors before we can teach skills or lessons or phonics or sounds. We first have to teach appropriate behavior, appropriate ways to speak to people, to not laugh at others. It's all behavioral discipline issues, like I mentioned before. And that is also a big challenge we've experienced since COVID, is that we're having to teach children to learn how to behave properly and how to interact with other people properly before we can teach an actual lesson.
Mm. That is so very true. And people don't realize some of the challenges, because even the administrators or the principal in the schools, I don't even think they clock on, because for me, in most of the schools I've gone to, they just seem to think business as usual, business as
Yeah,
normal. So,
yeah,
let's just get on with it. It's like I was told that, oh, we haven't got time, we need to teach the contents. And I'm saying, okay, it's all well and good having to teach the contents, but if you don't have the children where they are, the content is just going whoosh, and it's not going anywhere. And I don't
way
think that,
past it, exactly.
exactly. And I don't think administrators and principal are connecting on that. They're so zoning on contents. They're forgetting, in order for contents to go in, there have to be a balance,
Yes,
and they need to be
yes.
ready to take it in. I don't know if
Mm.
this is what you are experiencing, but this is what I'm experiencing over here.
No, I think we're experiencing the exact same thing with having to teach what is in the curriculum, uh, but the child has to be focused on first. I agree with you, because they just want us to meet criteria of curriculum, but the thing is, we do also need to focus on the actual child. Because if we don't focus on the child, the curriculum, like you said, is going to go right past them.
Mm, mm, mm. Thank you for that. Right. What 3 tips, now that you've come back in the classroom, right? There are 2 more questions I need to ask you. What have you taken back from, you said that you've taken the interactive board, because you guys know we use interactive board. What other 2 things have you taken from or have learned from the online platform or from the COVID era that you are now implementing in your classroom?
Okay. So I think the second thing that I've learned, like the interactive board, and it has to do with technology again. Because I think during COVID time, our children only learn to interact with a cell phone or with a laptop or with even television. So what I've tried to use and what I've learned and what I think we all learn as educators, that not every child is can learn a certain way. Some of them are visual learners, some of them are physical learners, where some of them learn differently. So I think those visual learners, what it taught me is that I could make videos. I could even put myself on a video on the screen, and they'd interact better to me on a video on a screen than me, an actual person. So that is what I've learned um, with bringing back to the classroom, is that I pre-record videos, put myself on a screen, and the learners would interact better to the person on the screen than actual me, because it's on a screen. So they love, I think, screen time more than they do actual learning in the classroom. So we have load shedding at the moment, so that's why you'll see I'm dark.
Oh,
Um,
right.
yeah, so we have load shedding that is rolling blackouts here in South Africa. That is what we have. So I don't think you'll be able to see me nice and clearly, but you can hear me still.
Yes, I can hear you clearly. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Okay. That is what happens here in South Africa, unfortunately. But it's a life we've come to learn to live with. But like
Yes.
I said, children interact with me better on the screen. That is something I've learned, that children like to learn via song, via video, I think, where they can interact more with the screen instead of having to actually write on a page. So, but we've learned to meet the children where they are. And I
Mm,
think where they are right now is to interact with technology, with screens, with interacting more, engaging more with the screen and the whiteboards and things like that. So I think that is what I've learned most from the COVID time, is that the learners do learn better with uh, technology.
right. Thank you. Another thing is, in terms of their mental health and your mental health, How are
Mm.
you supporting them, and how are you supporting yourself in terms of your mental well-being, etc.?
Okay, with the learners, it is becoming increasingly difficult because um, because I teach such a young group of learners. It is difficult for them to express themselves, and we are not psychologists. Whereas we could, find out what's wrong with them, try to build on, um, what is wrong with them, how we can get it better. So all we can do is refer them to people who can help them. That is the only thing we can do with learners, because as teachers we are unable to do that. Then with myself, I think that like I was saying a little bit earlier, is that us as teachers, I think we feel that even with COVID times, we just feel that we don't do enough. We don't give of our best selves for for the learners, for ourselves, for our families. Everywhere we find ourselves, we feel that we're not doing enough. But as women, as educators, I think that we are doing so much more. We need to stop not believing in ourselves, because we are doing an excellent job as educators. We are doing everything to the best of our ability. But that is a mindset we need to get for our own mental health, to get better, to get stronger. And I think we need to keep believing that we are changing the world one child at a time.
Mm. Thank you. That's so wonderful. That is so very, very true. And I'll
Mm,
just expand on that, because I feel that as educators, especially female educators, we need to celebrate our achievement a lot more. We need to
yes,
celebrate what we're doing a lot more, because we need to realize that we are whole, it's a double bind. We are holding family together, and we are educators at the same time. So we're doing all of that. And being an educator is not just an ordinary job. You have to
yeah,
love it. You really have
yes,
to love it in order to be in it, because it takes your entire being. It's not a job you just go in and when you finish you leave the job. Education is not like that. You in it
yes,
24/7. You live in the thing. When you leave the
mm,
classroom, you still being an educator. So
yes,
we need to start celebrating a lot more and appreciating ourselves a lot more, and realize that we are doing a good job. Educators out there, you guys are doing a good job. We need to
yes,
celebrate ourselves. If we don't celebrate ourselves, no one else will. Instead, they're going to find ways to bash us. So we need to celebrate ourselves, and we need to believe in ourselves and realize that, remember that we're doing a fantastic job. Every job that's out there start with an educator who is training you the skills or teaching you what to do. So we need to appreciate ourselves. That's something I need to remind us as
yes,
educators. We need to appreciate ourselves, because we're doing a good job. We're doing a real
yes,
good job. Is there
yes.
anything else you want to say to us before we actually wrap up?
No, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for doing this, and thank you for having this platform where I think educators can have an outlet to share their experiences. And I think connecting with each other and being able to lift each other up, no matter where you come from, it's such an important platform to have. And thank you for that.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you, educators, because as I said, we're doing a good job and we just need an outlet. And it doesn't matter whether or not you're an educator in South Africa, you're an educator in the UK. We just see that we have a common goal here to educate young people, and the challenges are real. And we all have same or similar challenges. Classroom management, disruption, misbehavior, lack of development, we have all the same thing. So,
Yes,
educators, remind yourself of your value, believe in yourself, and celebrate yourself. We're doing a good job. Thank you
yes,
very much, Stacey, for coming on. I really do appreciate that. We've had a number of challenges today to come online because technology was not doing what it's meant to do. you know.
As
So
always,
we
yeah.
exactly. So we had all of that. And as we were saying during the break time, it just reminded us of some of the challenges that we had when we were teaching on the online platform. You know, you would go on, all of a sudden, everything just go blank. And you're sitting there thinking, what do I do? The students are on the other side. I cannot reach them. They cannot reach me. What am I going to do? You know,
Yeah.
so these are some of the challenges we've experienced. And we've experienced it today. So I do apologize, people, for the stop and start of the video. But in the end, it all went well in the end. So what we were
In the
hoping to do to bring someone experience across, and you had that.
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much, Stacey, and I do
Thank
appreciate
you
you.
for having me.
Have a great evening.